Well, hello, my friends. Welcome today. I am so grateful that you've decided to join me. And I think we're going to have a little bit of fun today and awaken our imagination. Get ready for a little bit of science and a little bit of behavioral psychology, some ahas, some new perspectives, and a whole lot of creative fun. And it happens only with you here. So if leveling up is on your radar, my friend, you're at the right show. So I'm Roseanne Marsh. I am the author of the Teen Parent Empowerment Curriculum Level Up, and I'll be your show host for the next 30 minutes. So you are listening and watching episode number 2, the most important thing that you can custom design in your life. Did you realize that everything that we design and create in our life can be boiled down to 5 steps? When we follow these steps, we can bring our thoughts, our wishes, our actions, our projects, and our ideas to life. If we skip one, that's okay. But wouldn't it be great if everything we desire to create in our life had a greater chance of succeeding? Well, in this episode, we are going to discuss one of the most important things that you can design and create that will determine your destiny. A little bit curious? Well, let's get going. Well, I have to say, growing up, I watched my dad create things. Oh, man. I felt like he could create anything. He could fix anything. It was just so amazing to me that he could build things. In fact, he built a playhouse on top of a shed. And we had this tall 10-foot ladder that we would pull up inside so nobody could get inside with us. And we'd be able to survey the neighborhood. And I had a mother that was very creative too. She would create these abundant meals from the garden that we had. She grew, and she would sew all of our clothes. So if I grew up knowing that if you wanted something, you created it. And so I learned to do some of the things that they did, but I always wanted to create with wood. Now, I don't know if any of you have ever watched the show Norm Abrams' This Old House. It's an older show, but he had a tool shop with the coolest tools and the coolest jigs. Now, a jig was something that he built, a small little tool that would help him be more accurate with these cuts, or it would shortcut the work that he had. And so he had the coolest jigs. And I was always envying Norm Abrams' jigs and thought, one day I want to be Norm Abrams. And so over the years, I started buying tools and doing small projects, but I wanted to recreate with wood. And I didn't have a workshop, but finally, in my 40s, I got on a wait list with our local high school. And it was a night class for adults, and you could go in and use their $250,000 worth of machine. I had to wait 3 years to finally get an opening. And I'll never forget my first night. I showed up so excited. And here's what the instructor said to me. He goes, "Hey, Blondie, we're not going to build your projects for you." I didn't even say a word, but I thought, do you know how long I've waited to be here with the right equipment in front of me? Why would I let them have all the fun? So I just started creating. But the instructor later, he told me, I'm just joking. I didn't mean that about Blondie, etc. And I have to say, he was an incredible mentor to me. He had so much patience in my zeal to build Taj Mahal, even though I only had like woodshed knowledge. I so appreciated the space he gave me to learn to create in that time in my life. So when I got interested in woodworking, I had so many people say to me, "Why don't you just go out and buy it? That's a lot of hours to invest." But all of you who have created something, when you create something, something comes alive in you. I was one with the wood. I'd get there and I'd smell the alder and the pine and the maple. And it was just like a sensory experience for me. It was a time when I had stresses, raising some children that were a little stressful. And that was like my escape from the world. And I could custom create something for the space that fit right where I needed it, the exact size I needed. And I could also do whatever I wanted. I could color finish it. I could crackle finish it. I'm proud to say that I'd take old furniture and I'd put molding on it and paint, and I'd give it new life, something new out of something old. So I was designer building. I had learned to create in one of the areas of my life. I loved it. Once a week for 3 hours, I would be immersed in a world that gave me total happiness. Design and build. I was learning to create from scratch. And I was learning how to remake things that were tired and worn and gave back life and gave them new purpose. I was in heaven when I was with the wood. I was a creator, a designer, and I was custom making one-of-a-kind pieces. You could never find these pieces around. Okay, now I gotta be super honest. You probably wouldn't want to find these pieces because I even joked that wood putty was like my best friend. You know, wood putty is when you make a mistake, you put a little bit in there, sand it down, and hopefully nobody sees that crack or the gap, whatever it was. And there were certain projects that I was going to stain, but because of all the different putty I had in there, I decided I better paint it because I could camouflage it. But then there were certain woods I didn't even dare use because I was afraid that I'd be repairing a little bit too much. But I was learning. I was pushing myself. I learned how to dovetail, arch, do arch moldings. And I'd pick the brains of the old men in the class that had been doing this for a long time to give me the shortcuts and suggestions I'd need or the jig I should build. But I could start with an idea, an inspiration, and those drawings on paper is where it all started. Those excited sketches came to life from my head into life. And as imperfect as they were, and as flawed as these pieces are, one of them is right behind me right now, but they were learning for me. It was a conscious choice of what I was creating. So I want you to think, what is your equivalent in your life? What's that conscious creation that you've done? We all have passions, that fire in our belly, our desire to try to create something. Maybe it's a piano piece that you want to tackle. Maybe it's a wholesome organic food recipe that you're mastering. Maybe it's a piece of poetry that has your heart and your soul in it, or a book you're writing, or a garden that you're nurturing and coaxing out of these tiny seeds, this nutrition for tomorrow. Designing can take on so many different faces. So what are you creating that moves your soul? Because all of us are creators. So there's so many different ways we can create. But think about when you're creating, how does that make you feel? I can just imagine, for me, it was excitement, anticipation, butterflies in the stomach. But I'll tell you, from learning how to create with wood, or attempting to create with wood, may be a better description of it. But I came up with 5 custom design creation steps that I learned from that walk in the sawdust power tools paint world. And if you're okay, I want to share those with you because I think they fit with anything that we want to create. But then I want to bring this around to something that I feel is probably the most important thing that we can custom design for our lives. So here's our 5 steps. And I don't have a PowerPoint slide for this, so I'll just give these to you. If you have a piece of paper, write these down, see if they apply. The first one is envision. Oh man, awakening our imagination is probably one of the biggest superpowers that you have. So envisioning, see it in your mind's eye, savor it, feel it, smell it, even with all the senses you need to bring it to life, as if it already existed. What is that like when you sit and close your eyes? I have to close my eyes. Maybe you can do it with your eyes open. But the first one would be envision what you want to create. The next is write it down. What do they say? A goal isn't a goal until it's written down. But don't keep it in your head. Bring it down into the here and now. Just like an architect has all these creative thoughts, and then they bring it down and they have a blueprint. And they say, okay, I'm going to commit on paper, see if this makes sense. And then it's easier to see, oh, I just need to make this little adjustment before I go forward with it. Third step, take action. Make preparations for it, get all your tools, your jigs, what you need, and then do the work, take action. Stay focused with it. But even the smallest amount of time that we put towards something ends up in something big over a long period of time. So even if we just do small incremental steps, large things can happen from that. Fourth one, check your work. Make adjustments. compare it to your written goal, and course correct ourselves lovingly. We're not here to beat ourselves up. We're here to learn, to grow, to develop. It is a privilege to progress. And yes, custom design, whatever creation we want to do. So check your work. And the fifth one, really important one that I learned was enjoy your creation. Celebrate your creation. When you do a good job, celebrate it. Now, why do we want to celebrate it? Well, the brain learns, the subconscious learns by how we react and how we feel. And when we celebrate, we bring up these high emotions. If you haven't had a chance to watch episode 1, go on back to the episode that's something is happening to you every day that you may not be aware of. That tells you a lot about our body and how fabulous it is. But science teaches the subconscious that when we celebrate, this is a behavior that we want to repeat again. So it's envision, write it down, take action, check your work, and then enjoy your creation. So now I want to apply this to really what I want to talk about for the remainder of our time together. Something I feel is so critical. But I have a friend that had a very tough childhood, and she's a super hard worker, and she left her home as soon as she could have enough money. Well, actually, it's her friends bought a bus ticket and got her out of her home that was very dysfunctional. And she moved around a lot. And I remember one day she said, you know, I could be happy if I could just redesign my life. And her comment made me stop and think. And I like, wow, well, if I could design and build with wood or cloth, why couldn't I design and build my life? That same passion that I brought to woodworking, could I bring that same passion to up-leveling my life that seems so full of challenges and heartache? I thought it might be daunting, but where should I start? Because how do you design a life? Because we really have so many roles that we play. You know, what kind of mom did I want to be? What kind of marital partner did I want to be? What kind of role did I want to have on the boards that I was sitting on? What kind of college instructor did I want to be? And think about the many hats that you women or men have. You know, when we write that down, that could be daunting. So where do we start? So I remember one day I was sitting there pondering. I'm like, you know, who am I really? And what do I want to become? This just seems so big to redesign my life. And a strong impression came to me. And I know many of you understand what strong impressions feel like. And it was like, you are your thoughts. You are what your thoughts have created. And, you know, I knew that intrinsically, but to hear that again and apply that at a time when I wanted to custom design my life was powerful. I'd studied the big names in the transformation game, but now their words were taking on new meaning. Like Lou Holtz, we are what we believe. Zig Ziglar, you are the sum total of what goes on in your mind. A man is what he thinks about all day. A man's life is what his thoughts make of it. We become what we think about. As a man thinks, so is he in the Bible. And the Buddha says, with our thoughts, we make the world. So the blueprint of my life really looked like this. And let me share this screen with you. We are made up of our thoughts. And it starts here with thoughts. We have over 60,000 of those every single day. And we decide what we're going to keep and what we're going to let go. And some kind of flow through and some we get caught in. But where our focus goes is where it grows. As we focus on certain ones, we attach feelings and emotions to them. And when we attach feelings and emotions, that means we're combining the head and we're the heart. And when those two are combined, that creates the beliefs. And then the beliefs are what start forming the synapses. Go back to the neural system in episode number 1. It starts to record when those beliefs happen. So it's when we start attaching emotions and feelings to those thoughts, that's when it's a little bit harder to let go of that thought. Now, how much time do we have? Well, there's really a magic window, they say. I don't know how magic it is, but some say if you can get rid of a thought within the first 7 seconds, all the way to 17 seconds, then you don't start attaching feelings, because after that 17-second window, we start putting meaning to that thought, and then we start forming those beliefs. What's the truth? Is it 7? Is it 17 seconds? You know what? We're also individual. I have a son that he attaches feelings to a thought in nanoseconds. So what your window is, you may be more aware of. But the fact of the matter is, we have a little bit of window of time to be able to think of that thought and go, oh, no, I don't think I need that one. Or yes, or oh, okay. And we can decide what we keep and what we let go. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that in a minute. But when you look at our life, it starts with the thoughts. We start attaching emotions and feelings to it, becomes our beliefs. And then the beliefs become our actions. And the actions, of course, take us to our destiny. And that could be even our results. So it could be, you can simplify this to, okay, it's a matter of, the result is I wanted to get this project done and the project's not done. So where do you start? Okay, the project's not done. So what were my actions? Well, I kind of procrastinated. Well, why did I procrastinate? Could come all the way back to that thought of, I'd rather be doing this instead of getting that done. So when our thoughts are in agreement with our destiny, when they're in alignment with our destiny, we reach our goals. But it all started from the thought. But when our thoughts are not in congruency with our destiny or the goal or the outcome that we want, then we have to course correct. And of course, all of you know the stories of when there's been an airplane, and an airplane takes off and they do a constant course correct to get to their destination. There is never a flight that goes up, goes on autopilot and lands. There's always a course correction. That's just a part of it. So as we learn to course correct, we become more accurate. And yes, we get pulled aside, but our thoughts, if we don't like where we're at, if we don't like results, we have to look back at the thoughts. All right, so let's just dive in a little bit on thoughts. And I want you to use your imagination for a moment, if you would. So like I said, imagination is a superpower. So will you guys go on an imaginary quick trip with me? And we're all going to board a train. In fact, this is a train of thought. Yes, pun intended. But we are on a train and we're going to go on a little voyage, and it's taking us to a place where there's all these designer shops and there's all sorts of different kinds of thoughts that we can purchase, that we can acquire. And so let's just take this little tiny trip with our conductor. On the side of the train, it says train of thought. As we board, the conductor says to us, we'll be visiting many custom designer shops, and there'll be opportunities for you to select thoughts that suit you. Now, there's caution because pick your thoughts very carefully as they become your feelings, which will be tomorrow's belief, which will ultimately take you somewhere. So pick those that are congruent with our final destination. With over 60,000 thoughts a day, we want you to have a good variety, but there will be plenty of free samples that will be given to you. So choose wisely which ones you want to take home. So as we drive along in the train, traveling along, we see these designer shops with bright colored windows, all enticing. And the train keeps stopping and starting and stopping and starting, letting passengers on and off. And there's lots of different stores for us to see. Like there's a Western store with the slogan, wrangle your thoughts, a healthy Western throwdown. And we're thinking, boy, that would be good to be able to wrangle our thoughts. There's an outdoor sporting store with catch and release your thoughts. And then they come up to one and the conductor says, this is one of our largest shops. It's called Opulent Opinions of the World. The slogan, without it, you're worthless. and flocks of customers are going in there. And then the train slows down a little bit, and Minion Mind Chatter store, they start coming on the train and giving out free samples. And we're thinking, man, it looks like they're shoving these samples at people. And the conductor says, yes, they're a little bit persistent. Well, then there's another shop, Heavenly Helps, Angel Advice, Fairy Feelings, turn feelings into good feels. Then there's a side alley that we can kind of see, and we're kind of leaning over to kind of look down at. The very first one says designer counterfeits, and there's kind of some sly looking people there. Another store called Worthless Wanderings, another victim vacation, subconscious sabotage. And we're thinking, why would anyone go down that alley? And the conductor says, well, it's very enticing. And for many, it feels very familiar. So one passenger pipes up and says, is there a return policy? If we pick a thought we don't like, can we return it? They're like, no, it's yours to keep, but you can do with it what you want. And the conductor continues, you already have a lot of thoughts that come into your experience in life. So not all are menacing thoughts that are given to you by the minions. You have these thought loops that you choose to replay over and over. And wait, the passenger speaks up. How do I get rid of those thoughts if they aren't serving me? He says, well, you unchoose them. Thoughts you let linger are your choice. And then there's a sweet little shop that we drive up to, and it's called Design Your Divine, Creators Welcome. And there's lots of people going in. And he said, yeah, there's shelves of things to enhance your thoughts. And we're all like what? He says, well, there's patience, there's kindness, there's non-judgment, there's keen intuition, there's perception, tenderness. 2 prized products are charity and gratitude. And I see a lot of love coming out of there. Well, we all jump out of our seats and run to put our toes across that threshold, because that's the store. That's the thought store we want to be a part of. Design Your Divine. So really, thanks for going on that little imaginary trip, but designing your divine really starts with designing your thoughts. So now that we're off the train, let's apply those 5 creation steps to designing our divine thoughts. So number 1, envision. See it in your mind's eye. Who do you want to be? What do you savor that? Instill meditation, ponder. What does that look like to be that person that is the way you want to be? What does it look like? What are you thinking? What's that person thinking? What are they saying? If they're having a hard day, what are the thoughts that cross their mind? And number 2, write it down. Don't keep it in your head. Remember, commit to paper. Now, here's one of the big things for writing down when we talk about, now remember I talked about in woodworking, I learned about all these different kinds of jigs that you could have, all these different tools. So I'm going to throw in some jigs. And some of you know about these. And maybe for some of you, this is the first time you've ever seen these before. But one of the things you want to do for write down, if you want to change your thoughts, that would be your I am statements. The words I am are so powerful that when you put I am in and something behind it, it has a lot of weight to it. So what a good friend of mine said, pick the virtues and the characteristics and the traits of people you know, either from history or you know that you want to emulate, that you want to become like. And maybe you aren't that quite yet. But remember from episode number 1, when we immerse ourselves in these things, we have a higher tendency to rewrite our synapses and become. And just like an architect, we build what we want to become. So your I ams. The other thing for writing it down would be, now remember, we're going to get barraged by a lot of things, is I call it find it, flip it, rip it. And you may be familiar with this, but if you've never done this before, this is a mind dump. And I love doing this at night because we want to prepare our brain at night. So remember, when we're custom designing our thoughts, we need to bring in those ones that we want and get rid of those ones that don't serve us. So whatever is accumulated during the day, we write that down. On the right-hand side of your page, put a line down the middle. On the right-hand side, regurgitate those thoughts that you don't need, that are limiting you. Like I put down, I'm so unorganized, this is so embarrassing. Well, then on the inside, closer to the spine, you're going to put those unlimiting beliefs. You're going to write those things that your brain will understand. So for example, if I'm like, if I write on here, oh, I'm Marie Kondo and I am perfect at organizing from my unlimiting belief, well, your brain is going to go, liar, liar, you are not, and reject that. But if you say, I'm learning each day new tools to bring order into my life, your brain, we're going to give our mind, our brain something to work on. We're giving it some homework at night. And that's why I love doing this at night. Maybe another thing you put down, my parenting skills are the worst. But maybe you flip that to, I'm learning and trying each day to bring patience, calm voice, and acceptance to my communication with my teens. Maybe one of them you say is, I will be lonely living here. You say, I can meet new people through online organizations, service clubs, and I'm ready for an adventure. Then you rip that off and rip it up, burn it, bop it, flip it, torch it, whatever you want to do. But you want to give your mind the evidence that that is no longer there. That's putting your brain and your thoughts on training wheels. That's custom creating new thoughts, getting rid of that doesn't help, giving your brain some homework, and then having those I ams that talk about who you truly are. The next thing would be, number 3 is taking action. Make preparation. Prepare your mind in the morning and night to be able to go out. When you power dump these things at night, when in the morning, when you read your I ams, you're preparing yourself to go out to battle. The second one is check your work, make adjustments. Remember, it's about course correcting. We're going to get barraged by lots of crazy thoughts during the day, but I have a story of my mother-in-law. What she did was when her kids were out of control, she would like run to the window and go, oh my gosh, did you guys see what just ran across the backyard? And all the kids would run to the window and they're like, wow, what was it? Well, what was she doing? She was pattern interrupting because there really wasn't anything out there, but she stopped the energy. We need a pattern interrupter. So I want you to ask yourself 2 things when you get to having thoughts. Number 1, is this thought empowering me or disempowering me? And is it bringing me closer to my goals? Is it empowering me or disempowering me? Or is it bringing me closer to my goals? If not, use a pattern interrupter. I had one little gal in our thing that wanted to be a vet tech. So when you have a word, a phrase or a word, and then when you also have something physical that goes with it and that emotion that goes with it, and she'd go vet tech, and that would like shift her mind away from that thought and take her closer to her goal. Mine, some of you on this call know, mine is tally ho. For some reason, I absolutely love the energy behind that. So find out what's your pattern interrupter. And the last one is enjoy your creation. It's that celebration that I just changed my mind, or I had a good day, or I flipped those words, and I'm training myself and custom designing how I want to think that will move me closer to my destination. Have you ever thought, I am supposed to have choice in how I think. I am supposed to learn mastery over my thoughts. I am supposed to gain strength, and I can custom design my thoughts through envisioning who I want to be, how that person thinks, by writing it down, by using tools, by taking action, by checking your work and course correcting, by celebrating. We can decide which of those shops will be frequently. Is it the designer counterfeits? Is it the worthless wanderings? Or is it the design your divine? Change our thoughts, change our world. Design our thoughts, and we take control of our world. So if you're interested in learning more about what you experienced today, check out nobrainers.com. Thank you for sharing this half hour with me. Remember, tools don't need to be complicated or hard. Some of them just need to be no-brainers. Thanks you guys for joining with me.